This is where seller financing comes in, especially if interest rates are going to continue to flatline or even keep rising. All right, welcome back. So this week's topic, we're going to go over creative financing. That's what the whole post was about and why I think it's going to be so crucial in 2023, and we're going to see a big rise of it. So before I get started talking about it, I'm going to explain what creative financing is and a couple of different options that you can use. Basically what it is it's any peer-to-peer financing. So working out a deal between a buyer and a seller without using the banks. So a couple of these would be like seller financing, contract for deed, or maybe you want to actually live in a property and you do a rent to own deal, or in dire situations, a subject to deal, which is basically where you take over someone's mortgage and help them avoid foreclosure. But in my case, and if you're an investor or just looking to get in for investment purposes, creative financing most of the time is going to be some form of seller financing where you create your own terms, where you can really basically do almost anything. And the reason I think that 2023 is the year for this is because one, there's less barrier for entry. So most people get hung up on real estate, and the reason it doesn't go as viral as, say, like e-commerce stuff or crypto stuff is because the down payment scares a lot of people away. The high purchase price scares a lot of people away. Well, once you learn seller financing and creative financing, and as this becomes more taught and more understood in general, you're going to see more people get in because you can do deals where you actually put 0% down, 5% down, 10% down. And you could never do that with the if the bank was involved, but if you do it peer to peer, those options are possible. So I think it'll rise because people are itching and people do want to get involved in real estate, but the barrier to entry with traditional financing and mortgage brokers and all that, it's just too high. So I think we're going to see an increase because of that. The other reason I think it's going to rise is because of necessity. So if you looked at the post, I do a weekly Substack, like basically a blog post. It'll be on the link below. You can subscribe, and it's just one email a week. But there's basically been much lower volume, transaction volume, so there's less people buying and selling homes. And when that happens, it really hurts agents and wholesalers because obviously their living is based around sales and doing transactions. So if they can start to teach the sellers and kind of pitch sellers on the idea of seller financing, I think even if they're reluctant to do it, they'll start to pitch it as a second and third option to sellers to try to keep more deals alive. Whereas just back in 2021, there was more deals than anyone could handle. Everything was flowing. So now when things are tightening, if a person is selling a home and no one's willing to buy it at the price they want traditionally, agents and wholesalers are going to come in and try to basically pull out different tools in their tool shed to keep deals alive and keep transactions alive. Now, I want to use a real world example too that really showcases the power of seller financing and how you can kind of get out of the interest rate trap that's happening right now, where interest rates spiked so much so fast that the payments just don't make sense. Someone could have a 4% interest rate and just bought the home in 2021, and to sell it now at the same price at a 7% interest rate, 8% interest rate, that person, it's a $700 swing. So the cash flow is basically gone if you're doing a sale traditionally. So closing the gap. Let's use the example that I used in the post, which was a $250,000 house. All right, I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible, explaining this scenario without having a chart or a whiteboard. So let's take a house that a lady named Susie wants to sell for $250,000. And in 2021, the house was worth $250,000. And if a potential investor, we'll call him Bob, wanted to buy the house in 2021 at a 4% interest rate, he would make $600 a month in cash flow, right? But at today's interest rates, let's say 8%, if Bob wanted to make that same $600 per month in cash flow, he could only offer $165K. So you're almost a third off in price difference. And that's what's happening. At least that's what I'm seeing in the stuff that I buy. There's a disconnect in what people think the house is worth, because the original, the owners still want to hold on to the equity they had in 2020, 2021, early 2022. And investors who are actually running the numbers are saying, if we're looking at just cash flow, just the income that that asset will produce, we can only pay much lower than what they're expecting for it. This is where seller financing comes in, especially if interest rates are going to continue to flatline or even keep rising. You're going to see seller financing come into play because it can close the gap. So hypothetically, let's keep with this same $250K house. If Bob and Susie agree and Bob goes, listen, I know your best offer is $165 with traditional financing. Why don't I give you the $250K you want for it, but we'll just do terms. We'll come up with our own terms. So I'll buy it for $250, but you got to give me a 4% interest rate. Or maybe even I'll just do interest only for 5 years, 3 years, and then I'll do a balloon payment in a set amount of time. Basically, it opens up people's minds and it creates opportunity and possibility for deals when before, if you're buying traditionally, the gap is so wide that it's just not possible. So Bob and Susie Bob can actually offer her the price that she wants for the home. And when he does go to sell or refinance, she actually gets the exact price that he wanted. And because they came up with their own terms, Bob is able to still get the cash flow and the income that he wanted on the purchase. So this is just creative financing in a nutshell. I think it's going to be something that continues to rise, and it's worth learning. So I'm going to wrap the video up right here. If you want to stay connected, again, I have a post and a rental calculator also that you can run the numbers on deals like this. You can run the numbers on this $250K example, and it'll be free in a link below. So subscribe to the Substack, get your rental calculator, and I'll see you guys next week in the next video.